Back when I lived in Maryland, I used to go and visit the National Cathedral a lot. I love that building. Sometimes I went down there to pray, but most of the time I went down there to try to find all of the things that I knew were there, but I just hadn't seen with my own eyes yet. It's a beautiful, beautiful statement of architecture, art, and beauty. And one time when I was there was this woman who, I don't know if she was a local or a visitor, who, with a friend of hers, was going around from nook to nook in a fur jacket, a very satiny shirt, and a very short leather skirt, and high leather stilettos, taking pictures in each of the nooks and with each of the statues, posing at each one. And this was long before the age and era of smartphones or Instagram, so I don't know what these pictures were for. But she spent most of her time complaining rather loudly about how the lighting wasn't just right, that it wasn't easy to get a good shot because they hadn't thought about the lighting when they were putting each of the windows and statues in. And she complained so loudly that several of the guides had to ask her to please be quiet so that they could finish what they had to say about the area they were in and move on to the next. And it really struck me how much she was missing being in this place. Not just a place that's filled with history, but with just amazing things. One of the windows there, the space window, has an actual moon rock in the center of it. All of the gargoyles are different and beautifully made. There's so much to look at and so much to just experience. There's stones in this building from all around the world and all around the country, and each one is marked and labeled. So many things. But she was all stuck in herself, trying to get her pictures for whatever her pictures were for, to the point where she was disrupting the experience for the other people there. I think a lot of us are that woman. Not necessarily at a cathedral, but in the various moments of our lives where we're so focused on how we're coming across or whether we're getting what we want from a situation. And we're not actually taking in the moment that we're in. We get lost. We don't experience the awe and the wonder of a place or savor the moments we live through. And so today, as we talk about the Sefer of Malkuth, I want to talk about that savoring, because many of us are feeling a little listless, meaningless, lost, and adrift lately. And I think a lot of that is we've forgotten the flavor of life and how to savor it. So let's talk about that as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I'm a Christopagan Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the Dagda.
So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about, it's going to be a scary term for some people and a very common one for others, the meaning crisis. This state that we've all kind of found ourselves in one way or another, where life just feels a little hollow, a little meaningless. Like, why even bother? How often have you asked yourself that lately? Well, why should I even bother? Yeah, that's all kind of lumped together in this. We have been conformed to a very consumerist culture. And I've watched this happen throughout my life. I'm not saying that when I was a kid, we weren't a consumer culture. I grew up with He-Man, Voltron, and She-Ra, and G.I. Joe. So yeah, consumerism was a big part of my youth. But I also grew up in a community where we gathered around the table and broke beans together and canned together, which is a very different rhythm of life, and one that allowed for a little bit more meaning and purpose to slip in.
I feel like that ache comes out of habit because, like you, I grew up, with all this consumerism stuff. It was still relatively new-ish, that consumer culture, the heavy marketing promotion, like all of that kind of, started in the 50s and really started swelling up. But that ache really didn't start creeping into the culture until, I think of it as that greed is good generational period where everyone was taught that greed is good. And if you have an ache or you feel disconnected, you go shopping to cure it, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions to those that shop, but the meaning crisis got exacerbated by this consumer habit where you're just consuming to try to fill that disconnection rather than making connection. And it's all about what's new, what's next. And you could see when you look through this historical lens, you can watch it just get exacerbated more and more with each decade, until we get to now where even like television show seasons, eight episodes, like there used to be 26 episodes to a season. Like there's no time to savor. There's no time to get connected to characters. There's no time to get connected to even to a show because they may only have one season or two seasons and then the show's gone. Well, that used to be a mini series or something. Like it wasn't a full show because that was promised to be just a one-off or just a couple things.
And think about the words that we use for this. We binge a show now. No, you binge a bag of potato chips. We're not letting ourselves have that moment. We've replaced actual friendships with these things that we do online where it's just a small post here, a post there. We're on Facebook and Instagram and all of these places where real relationship really has a hard time forming. And dating is replaced not with meeting people, but swiping left or right and turning each individual person into a commodity that you may or may not want in your shopping cart. We've really lost this idea of connection, and that's really something that we need to bring back. But before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever app you're listening to us on. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. That helps us out more than you know, because they really look at those reviews to determine what they want to push and get the word out on. If you're interested in creation spirituality or any of the other things that we talk about, you can check out my book. This is my book, Creation's Paths, a Creation Spirituality Primer, which is available right now in paperback and Kindle over at Amazon and will be available in more places shortly. If you are a supporting member over at creationspaths.com, which is where we post all of the articles and videos that we do, then you can go to the library section and download your copy of it there. Thank you to everybody who does that. All right, let's just get on with it now, shall we? So let's start walking that through the four paths, because especially the first path has a lot to say about this. This isn't a new thing. In the 1990s, when Matthew Fox wrote Original Blessing, this was already a problem. And most of the themes for the Via Positiva that he wrote in that book addressed this particular thing. Also, if you want another book of his to really help kind of zero in on what we're talking about today, Sins of the Spirit, Blessings of the Flesh, his book on ethics, really delves into this in much greater detail than we're going to be getting into today. And I highly recommend that book. It is a wonderful read. So what does the Via Positiva have to say about the meaning crisis? Everything. I would say that the problem that we're suffering from today is that society no longer has a Via Positiva. We have a Via Negativa. We have just constant grieving over this war, this tragedy, this natural disaster. We have become proficient at grieving, though I don't think we are doing the other parts of the Via Negativa. We have a vibrant Via Creativa. Everyone's a creator now. Join the creator economy, though again, it has also been hollowed out. And we have a very Via Transformativa sort of thing where everybody feels like they're involved in activism because I put the black square up on my Instagram. I'm posting the right things. I'm using the right words when I'm talking about this. I have a big opinion about everything. And there's a recent event that we're going to be talking about a bit when we get to the Via Transformativa that shows how problematic this whole thing is. But we don't have a Via Positiva. Creation spirituality starts here. You start with awe. You start with wonder. And the Via Positiva, in that original article, in Original Blessing, contains a chapter called The Lost Art of Savor. And that, more than anything else, is what we are lacking. That's, to me, the root of the current meaning crisis. We're not taking that time, that moment, to dig into what we have and to really enjoy it. We're not enjoying the relationships that we're in. We're not savoring them. We're not savoring the moment. We're worried about whether we got the video of it or the image of it so that we have that for later. We're always living in the future or the past. We're not ever really in the now. And you can only savor now. You can't really savor later. If I give you a really yummy piece of chocolate, you have to savor it while it's in your mouth, not an hour later when you're reminiscing about the flavor of the chocolate while looking at a picture of it. It doesn't really work that way.
One of the ways I saw this often, it really sunk into my head, was watching people out dining and having a dining experience. If we're just eating, I mean, we can just consume food where we are. Like you could do that in your house. There's no point in going out to eat other than the convenience. But if you want the convenience of it, you can just order and have it delivered. So you still don't have to go out. It just, food shows up, you eat, you're done. If you're going to go through the effort of going out, if you're being present, you're having an experience of the whole thing. It's the experience of the atmosphere, the environment, and the food. And it's more than just consuming food because you need to consume food. And that's part of that savoring, because you're savoring the whole thing. You're being connected into that entire moment of it. And people wonder why they stopped going out, because there was nothing special about just going out.
I mean, this is really the difference between consumption and the consumer culture that we have and savoring. When we lived in California, when the energy crisis hit, we were one of the families that was hit really hard. And we had no money, jobs were nowhere to be found. And we were literally living off of a bag of rice, because rice was inexpensive and we could get a big thing of it in bulk, and a chicken breast that we would break up. One chicken breast would be 2 meals for both of us in one day. So each of us got rice with a quarter of a chicken breast. If we had the extra money, maybe a little bit of onion in there, but we found ways to season this so that it was still savory. There are times when I still kind of crave those really cheap and dirty rice dishes that we were having back then, because they weren't that much. It was like a little soy sauce, maybe a little spoon of sugar to add a little sweetness. Maybe we found duck sauce cheap, so it had a little bit of sweet and sour to it, but like we weren't adding a lot because we didn't have the money to add a lot. But we made those meals as special as we could, because it was the same meal every night. Every night we had our white rice and a quarter of a chicken breast, maybe some onion in it. If we really found them on a deal, maybe some other vegetables in there as well. But we still found a way to savor it. We could have just consumed it. I am getting my prerequisite protein and other nutrients from what I am consuming. Yay. But that really would have drained the experience out of life. You know, I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money, and we learned to make do with what we had. Like I said, we grew a lot of our own vegetables so that we could have them. We grew our tomatoes and our squashes and our beans. We grew corn. We had a full garden plot that we grew most of the foods that we ate. And so even though we were very poor when I was a kid, I never felt poor as a kid. The only time that I did is when it hit up against this wall of consumerism. Because, why can't I have that new transformer I want? I didn't need the transformer. I needed the food.
It really makes me think of how the Grinch Stole Christmas, the very end of it. You have this Grinch character, like such a wonderful message of consumerism, because he took the roast beast, he took all the decorations, he took everything of the physical stuff, the consumerism stuff that you could think of associated with celebrating Christmas. He stole all that. He took it away from them. But the thing is they were still connected into that moment. They were connected in with each other, and they were savoring that moment. And so when the Who's got up that morning, they all still gathered because it was about the community, and they all still sang their song, and they still celebrated. It was still a moment of joy and wonder, because the meaning wasn't in the stuff. The meaning was in that connection and in savoring the spirit of the holiday. You know, it's one of those joyous things about, you know, as we're looking at Malkuth, looking at the kingdom, at looking at the meaning crisis and stuff that we all face. It's all about habits. You know, we've all learned bad habits with it. The nice thing is it's also easily fixable, because we can unlearn and learn good habits. That life, that meaning, that experience of being alive is right there. There's an invisible veil of bad habits that separate us from that. And all we have to do is move that detritus, all that trash clear that out of the way, and that life can flow again, and that meaning will spring forth.
I want to disagree with the word veil, because I don't think it's a veil. I think it's just the distraction of it all.
Yeah.
It's how a magician works.
Yeah.
Most magicians, when they're doing their tricks, the whole trick is to get you to look at this hand, so this hand can do something that you don't see.
It's just that little misdirection. You know, it is an illusion that we trick ourselves into believing is real. That's why I was talking about like an invisible veil in that sense, where it is an illusion that we trick ourselves into believing is real, but it actually is not.
Well, a lot of it is even we tricking ourselves. Churches do this all the time. They forget the words of Jesus, that the kingdom is here now. Now, when Jesus spoke, he said it is here now. So 2,000 years ago, the kingdom was here. The church I was raised in said, eventually, one day in the far future, after a quarter of the earth's population is destroyed in terrible, terrible ways, the kingdom will come. I'm sorry, the kingdom will come. No, Jesus said it's here. That kind of deferment. Don't worry, you work while you're young and then you enjoy life when you retire. Why not find a way to do both at the same time? Why wait till you're in your 60s to learn how to have fun? Why do this? Well, because it serves someone. And that's where I'm pushing back about this use of the word veil. Yeah. Because yes, sometimes we distract ourselves, sometimes we fool ourselves. And especially in moments of grief or panic or worry, we do that
Mhm.
to ourselves very, very effectively. But our bosses do this to try to make sure that we are available to them for work and not actually enjoying our lives. Some people do this. Did you know nobody cared
There's-
about what people's breath smelled like until mouthwash, which by the way
Yeah,
was a form of floor polish
yeah,
that they started selling people to put in their mouth. And so they created words that for diseases that do not exist. And I grew up with these words like halitosis my entire life, thinking that, oh, it's got an osis on the end. This has to be an actual disease. No, it's something that a marketer came up with to sell you something. And I'm not saying don't take care of your teeth or anything else. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying a lot of the things that we worry about are things that we are tricked into worrying about so that we will buy something from someone. We have to be very mindful of that because that's what distracts us here in the Via Positiva. There's so much joy around us. There's so much to be savored, to find awe and wonder in. The kingdom is here. Our divine personhood is now. It's real. It is a thing. All of this is real now. But a lot of forces don't want you to see any of that because the more worried, lost, and confused you are, the more likely you are to buy their products. So as we move over to the Via Negativa, the grief that we are being tricked into feeling is FOMO, the fear of missing out. This is something that, again, this is the false substitute for the Via Negativa that we have now. Well, maybe the next thing will be better. Maybe if I just keep scrolling long enough, I'll find that thing that will make me happy, that will give me the perfect laugh, that will tell me everything's going to be all right. And so we keep scrolling, forgetting, or maybe not even realizing that the whole purpose of the algorithm is to keep you dissatisfied, so you keep scrolling. Or maybe if I get one more piece of clothing from this brand, or maybe if I buy this one more thing. No, you're not missing out on those one more things. Look, there are a lot of experiences I would like to. There are a lot of concerts I would like to go to. There are a lot of events that I would like to go to. And frankly, who has the money? Like when I see people going, I wish them all the luck and wonder what they gave up or how much debt they went into to go to a lot of these things. At the heart of it all, the grief that we're all feeling here is this emptiness that just wants connection. It just wants us to open space and make space for what we already have to fill it. And that's a tricky place to live in. That's a tricky place to be, to learn to actually let go of that fear of missing out and realize, well, maybe I can't go to that concert, but maybe my friends and I can get around and get together and play our favorite songs by whatever artist that was, and we can sing along and just have our own little thing where we can enjoy each other's presence and that music. That's a Via Negativa moment that creates a Via Creativa moment and a Via Transformativa moment that gives us a thing that we can savor because we have to let go of that fear. Yeah, it can be sad that, oh, I can't go to the theater to see that movie, or I can't go to see that show, or I can't go to that festival, or. But we can't let that distract us from what we actually have.
this is we talked before about klepots and nizizats and
The
the
shell and
broken
the
shells. Yeah, the shells and the sparks of life, and that really comes up here in this Via Negativa moment when we're looking at this FOMO. That FOMO is the broken shell that's trying to hide the spark that's underneath. Because it would be wonderful, yes, to go and celebrate your favorite musician, for instance, with 1,000 or 10,000 fellow people who all love this musician and all be gathered in one place, in one of those big arenas or at a music venue show. But sometimes it could be just as special to have that with just a couple friends in the living room dancing around while the music's playing and just having a good time for a few minutes. This is definitely that space where you can make room for the imagination, which will later birth that creativity, where you can imagine what in that is actually meaningful to you and having that meaning.
I think a lot of people mistake the Via Negativa simply as a place of grief. And so, while I did go through my Via Negativa, I mourned not being able to fill in the blank. And yeah, that might be part of it. Maybe some friends of yours got to go because they could afford it, but you couldn't. And so there is an actual genuine grief that you couldn't be with your friends in that moment or something like that. And so I don't want you to think that there's never anything to grieve in these moments. But we have to be careful not to fall into the trap of always, well, I can't get the newest device, or I'm not on the hottest platform, or I'm not this, that, or the other. I'm not at the best restaurant or club or whatever is going on, that you're having that sense, that fear of missing out. Because that's what causes us to completely miss the moment. If we're not making space, and I've seen so many of my friends go through this, where they're in a relationship and you're like, so are you happy? And they're like, well, they make me really happy and I really love them and they're very caring and we work really well together and we enjoy everything that we do together. And I love them so very, very much. But what if there's someone better out there? Yes. And what? Yes, we maybe. I'm sorry to just kind of lose words there, but that's kind of how I feel in the moment of just, yeah, maybe there is someone better, but maybe there isn't. Maybe you're losing out on something special out of fear that it's not perfect. Because what FOMO teaches us is to expect these perfect moments. Well, if I got to go to this festival or that thing, there would be this moment of sheer perfection and I would feel complete. Yeah, very few of those moments are going to happen in your life. Savor them, honor them when they do. They're generally not manufactured by a corporation. It's sold for a commodity price. And the same thing's true with relationships. I've had good relationships. I've had bad relationships. We've been married since 1997. Could we maybe have found a better match if we had kept looking? We were fairly young when we got together. Who knows? I don't. I do know that we've had decades of amazing life together. And that's the thing. It's not about settling. We've created this ideal, this perfect out there that we're seeking and running after that is so real in our mind that we feel like, what if I just settle for being in a happy, loving, caring relationship that feels so good to be in? How is that settling? Where is the settling here?
Because that's the thing is each of those are kind of extremes of that same thing. When you're grieving, when you're going through the grieving process, it's about accepting the loss, honoring the loss and then moving on. So, if you ignore, on the one extreme, you can, as Charlie was saying, you could get stuck in that loss and be so attached to it that it's that the fight or flight instinct that you go to fight, that you're just doggedly holding on to it, that you lose everything else because it swallows you, it consumes you, you're gone. You end up giving into rage or anger. Like going back to that concert example, they then become resentful of their friends or angry at their friends, whatever it is, because they've they've grasped that loss. The other one is that flight where you just accept and you tolerate the abusive relationship, or you accept the condition of your life because whatever reasons, because you've run away from allowing yourself that moment of grief where you can hug the loss and then let it go and make space so you can go on. Going back to that concert example, the person who hugs that loss and then moves on, they have now cleared that space of their friends going to the concert and them not. So now they can be creative. They can have those thoughts of like, hey, when they come back, I could have them share their experience with me so that even though I couldn't be there, we as a collective can have a community time of joy and awe and wonder and splendor, celebrating what they experienced. And you don't have the distractions of that little green bug in your ear, the little devil on your shoulder going, well, you didn't get the gun, or any of that stuff. You can let it go and be able to have those opportunities where you can have that meaning. And then as a community of friends, you can have that kinship, that shared moment, celebrating it, and even maybe play some of the music, like for instance, in that particular instance.
It's all about learning to make space, which is why I always say that that's the main focus of the Via Negativa, because grieving not having something that is perfect is the tightest grip that you could ever grip onto something with. All I have is this diamond, but it has flaws. All diamonds have flaws. Even quote unquote flawless diamonds have flaws. Do you know what don't have flaws? Man-made diamonds. We can grow them in the lab and they are perfect and they do not shine light well. It's the flaws in the diamonds that give them their luster. It really is. And we don't understand that. So we find ourselves in this place where we are believing that we have to have something perfect. And it keeps us from having what is good. And that's really what we need to let go of here. If we're really going to experience the joys of the kingdom, if we're really going to experience the joys of life, we have to let go of this fear of missing out, or we're just going to miss out on everything. So as we turn over to the Via Creativa, and we ask ourselves, what are we creating? What are we giving birth to in this moment? It's rebuilding our ability to savor. That sounds so simple, doesn't it? It sounds like it should be something really easy. And for some people, it is. Some of us never forgot how to savor. I'm not one of those people. I had to relearn this again. And I've had to relearn this several times because I have forgotten it and then had to learn it again. Because it is easy to get distracted. It's easy to wander off and find yourself in a place where you're like, oh, I am so dissatisfied because I'm not actually savoring any of the events of my life. So what does it mean to savor? Very simple. Sit with it. Examine it. Experience it. Let's go back to the chocolate. Actually, Thich Nhat Hanh teaches this with an orange. So maybe an orange or your favorite fruit. Whatever just find something that you really, really love. This works best with a beverage, a non-alcoholic beverage. That's very important here because we're trying to focus our minds, not let them get a little bleary. So start with something that you love the flavor of.
I was going to jump back on the chocolate one because it has a built-in timer if you let it melt in your mouth and not chew, for those that have trouble slowing down.
Chocolate's one of my go-tos. I love chocolate. Find something that you just absolutely love. And don't just guzzle it. Don't just drink it all down or just pop it in your mouth, chew and swallow, or like some people seem to do, just swallow. No. Let the experience of it wash over us. If it has a particular fragrance, start there. Don't even eat it yet or drink it. How does it smell? What does that smell bring to mind? What about that smell do you like? Do you enjoy? Do you love? Is it the spiciness of it, the fruitiness of it, the richness? What there do you love? Just sit with that smell and savor it for a moment. Then, once you've done that, then put it in your mouth. Don't swallow. This is very important. Is the texture something that you love about this? If it's a fruit, this is where it can become really, really powerful experience because you can kind of press it up against the roof of your mouth with your tongue, maybe chew it just a little bit. If it's anything else, and let the juices out. If it's a beverage, just let it kind of sit on your palate for a moment. Look at the complexity of the flavor. What about this flavor means something to you, resonates with you? What is in this that makes you love it so much? Does that character change over time as you hold it in your mouth? There are some flavors, and if you've never done this with a cracker, do this with a cracker, and you can see this really powerfully. You put it in your mouth, and it's instantly so salty. But the longer it's in your mouth, the sweeter and sweeter and sweeter it gets because your saliva is breaking down the starches into sugar. You can feel that transformation. Transformations like that happen all the time. And then, once you've savored it, then swallow. But don't stop there. What's the aftertaste? What's left in your mouth? What's left in the room? What's left there with you? And just sit with it for a while. This is very easy to kind of practice with a beverage or a food. But the technique is the same when you're trying to savor a relationship. What do you enjoy about being with that person? What is it like being with them? Perhaps they wear a certain perfume or cologne that just makes you happy. Maybe it's the way they giggle, how they tell a story. But what is it? Just let yourself sit with that and enjoy it. It's the same process, except for, unless you're a very certain kind of friend, you don't chew on each other.
And the whole thing here is you're creating a habit. Creating a habit is about doing this thing over and over and over again over a period of time. It takes time for habits to form, good ones and bad ones. And in this case, you're wanting to create a habit of savor so that when you find yourself in that moment of FOMO in the future, it's a reactive moment. But if you have a good habit of slowing down and savoring, you'll then find yourself, instead of going, oh man, I'm going to miss out on this, I need to rush to this next thing, you'll know, oh wait, that's a yellow flag. Let me pause, slow down. Let me savor this moment and see what's actually going on. Because then when that magician's doing a little misdirection, instead of getting distracted by the misdirection, you can slow down and then see like, oh, okay, they're wanting me to go over here because this is a distraction. I'm actually going to pay attention to here to see what's actually happening.
So now as we move over to the Via Transformativa and start asking ourselves, how do we interfere with injustice and bring joy into all of this? Well, let's start with that first phrase, interfere with injustice. Injustice is one of the biggest things that causes this problem. If you haven't already had your spidey sense start tingling with all the things that I've been saying about all the folk that want you to feel FOMO, yeah, that's an injustice that's being done on people that needs to be interfered with. If you notice, we've been doing that throughout this entire episode, trying to get you to interfere with that injustice. We've been trying to interfere with that injustice, to take that away. Because what we are actually building here, the real root of all transformation and justice, is Simcha. It's a joy. But it's a very specific kind of communal joy that is shared one with another. It is not complete if it is not shared. It's something that happens with other people, not alone. It is a joy that is overwhelming, that just bubbles up and fills all kinds of people. But our culture is not designed around Simcha. It's not designed around that kind of joy right now. In fact, it's on the other extreme, where it's about division and tearing people apart and pushing people further away and giving people more reasons and excuses to be angry rather than joyful. There's a story going around right now that you may have heard. I'm not going to go into it in detail because it uses a lot of terms that I really should not be using on what we're hoping is a family-friendly show. You've probably seen or heard the number 62 million men bubbling around a lot. This number comes from a very poorly written, very poorly sourced, and very poorly done article from CNN. That most people read the headline, did not read the article, and did not read any of the corrective material that's gone out against it. And it claims that 62 million men formed a abuse network to teach each other and to learn how to abuse their significant others and those that they're dating. I think I said that vague enough. If you're not familiar with the story, be careful as you dig into it because there's a lot of lies there. And I say lies because they are lies. One, the 62 million number comes from the traffic to an adult website that just has adult videos on it. Not individual members, just views. How many pages got viewed? How many videos got viewed on a monthly basis? It's not a real number. It's what we in the industry call a vanity metric, and a number that really shouldn't have been mentioned at all. The actual number is much smaller and is included in the original article, but the article keeps going back to the 62 million. And so people are angry because 62 million men did a bad thing. That's actually not what the article says. That's not what the article is about, and that's not what actually happened. But that number, because it's so fantastical, 62 million, is everywhere now. I see it everywhere. I keep coming across it in just videos about one thing where, to prove their point about how bad and awful everything is, did you hear that 62 million men, blah, 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 blah. And it's all based on a poorly written article with a terrible clickbait headline that was meant to freak people out so that they would click it, and now is being used to divide men and women. It's being used to manipulate people on the left to support various censorship calls from the right wing. It's being used for division because no one, what if we said this entire episode, stopped, took a second, made space, and looked. They saw something that they could be angry about. They saw something that they could be outraged about, and they picked it up and they ran with it. And unfortunately, by now, I don't think most people even know the source of this number or where it came from. It's become a living meme in and of itself. That is what we are fighting against here. You see, if you don't have an opinion on the 62 million men, you are part of the problem. Even though it's not a real number, it's not a real statistic, it's not a thing that actually, well, part of the story is a thing that actually happened, but the 62 million number is not part of the thing that actually happened. It's division. It's there to make you angry because angry people are easy to control. Upset people are easy to control, to get them to do what they want, which is why our entire culture is geared against us experiencing communal joy.
It's why, we talk about in the Via Creativa creating this habit. So this way, when those moments strike, when the powers and principalities try to trigger you, that you'll have a good habit created so that you can have this Simcha, this communal joy, and celebrate and transform together. Because in the good habits, you can go, those people going to reading the article were there to actually learn, to actually read the article, and not there for all these other reasons or FOMO reasons. Because if you're afraid of missing out, but you don't have time, you're going to just read the headline and then make a bunch of assumptions and try to have a reaction immediately. If you're savoring, you're taking the time to go and read and see what this is actually about. You give yourself the space and the opportunity to have questions like, well, that number doesn't seem right. Like, why is this number so big? And then, because the minute you start questioning and start exploring, it falls apart very quickly.
If the U.S. population is 350 million, 62 million is a huge number. And that should have been a red flag in people's minds, but we don't slow down. Yeah. Our entire culture is designed to keep us from slowing down. That's how we lose the ability to savor, and that's why we lose the ability to have joy. Both of those things require you to slow down a little bit, to just take a moment, assess, see what's going on. Because many times there's more to be joyful about than there is to rage against. But the powers that be don't want us to slow down. And I know that sounds conspiratorial, but I took a lot of marketing classes when I was young. That's actually what we're told. Make sure the cuts are very, very quick. Make sure that there's always something new and titillating on the screen so they don't have time to think about the claims. They just look at the images and go, oh, I wish that was me. So yeah, the administration really is trying to distract us. You know why? Because James Bannon came up with a theory of how to run politics. It's called flooding the zone. It's literally what he named it. It sounds like something that would be on a frat boy poster on a wall. Flood the zone. And well, I mean, yeah, it kind of is. But that's the idea. If you keep people constantly having to see the new thing, they forget about the old thing. So you can get away with the old thing because there's a new one, 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 right? No one can slow down. No one can take a breath. No one can see what's happening. This is marketing 101 turned into politics. It's FOMO. Well,
Yep.
I don't want to keep talking about the old thing because the new thing is here and I really should be talking about the new thing. Oh, wait, there's another new thing? Well, I can't really keep talking about this one because I need to be talking about that thing now. And on and on and on you go. It's that distraction machine. That fear of missing out that we've talked about this entire time is being used in politics. It's being used to sell you things, to get you to concerts, to get you to go to various shows, to get you constantly scrolling on your phone, to be scrolling on your phone while you have a movie on. Because, yeah, I could watch the movie, but what if I miss something that's happening on the app I like?
To get you to dump that perfectly good relationship that you may already have for this possible future thing that...
We don't like uncertainty. We don't. And that's the whole point of the system, is to capitalize. And I really mean that, literally capitalize, to make money and power off of our hatred as a species of not knowing things. So how do you accomplish that? How do you actually get people to give you things? You constantly distract them. You constantly distract them. You make them afraid of missing out. And that's why Simcha fights against this. You slow down. You throw a party. You enjoy time with your friends. And in that, you have broken all of those cycles. You're not up on all of the things that they're trying to make you afraid of. Those fears recess into the background. Well, your friends accept you, so maybe it's not a bad thing that you didn't get that new shirt, skirt, or whatever. Oh, I haven't heard of that album, but my friend is going to share it with me, so I don't have to spend all my time trying to find the hip new song, because my friends will just share it with me when we sit together and share the music that we love. That's Simcha, that joy of being together, that joy that arises from that rooted togetherness, working towards a common cause. And that common cause can be as simple as just having a good time together. It can be more than that too. Until we all see what this fear of missing out is doing to us, people are just going to keep weaponizing it against us. The real trick is to make it not work anymore. Sure, they'll find something else. That's what Babylon do. But until then, we have this. And when they find out their next thing, we still have this, and it'll probably work against that too. And so before we leave, as you know, we like to leave you with a little practice that you can do. And we've done this one before, and we'll do it again because it is that important and central to our practice. What can you do right now? In this moment to fight FOMO, say a bracha, say a blessing. Very simple blessing. Blessed are you, O source of all life. And then whatever good thing that you have in this moment, no matter how simple, no matter how complex, just say it. Say a blessing over something. It slows you down. It makes you have to take a beat. And it also reminds you that you are blessed. My mother used to always tell me to count my blessings, and it annoyed me because it was like, why should I make a list? And unfortunately, she was the kind of person that literally made a list and counted her blessings. 1, said it, 2, said it, 3, said it. And for me, that doesn't work. If that works for you, more power to you. That does not work for me. That feels like homework. That feels like something that I have to catalog and be keeping notes on all day, and it just feels like a lot for me. But I can take a moment anytime anything good happens. And whether I say it out loud, say it with others, or just say it quietly to myself, I can say a little blessing. It slows me down and allows me to savor what's happening. I invite you to do the same right now. Blessed are you, O source of life. And as we're heading out today, I want to offer you just this little blessing. Blessed are you, O source of life, who gives us this time together, where we can study and learn and walk the paths and find joy, happiness, and a path towards justice in our daily lives. Amen.
Amen.